Welcome to my views and news. Wednesday's first news story is about operation by security forces against Fano fighters in South Volo, where a town was surrounded by security forces yesterday reportedly, and in the exchange of gunfire, several Fano fighters were injured reportedly. Secondly, viewers, the Washington Post has published an interesting article about a militia commander. We mentioned the name of this militia commander in several videos last year. The militia is based in the Oromia region. It's not OLA, it's another militia. OLA accuses this commander of being involved in civilian killings. The Washington Post journalists contacted this militia commander. Details for you. Thirdly, viewers, another diocese, organizing committee of a diocese issued a statement last night in Oromia. This is a third statement from diocese in the Oromia about appointment of bishops, which was announced around 48 hours by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. Firstly, viewers, small-scale operations against Fano fighters continuing in the Amhara region. We have been informing you that the government forces, Ethiopian Army, has decided against large-scale operations against Fano fighters. We saw that in Gondar, when people protested, security forces retreated. To some extent in Shiva as well, but small-scale operations are continuing. Government forces are trying to corner Fano fighters, and through surgical small-scale operations, they're trying to weaken the different Fano factions. Yesterday, security forces conducted an operation in South Volo. It was conducted in Varailo. Varailo is part of South Volo. The town was surrounded by security forces. For several hours, there was exchange of gunfire between Ethiopian Army and Fano fighters in Varailo, and some Fano fighters were injured. Some security officials were injured too, reportedly. Locals have confirmed this incident in Varailo. Injured were taken to Dasi Hospital yesterday. So, who was there in Varailo? Mere Vodajo or some other Fano fighters? I think they're in Varailo, East Amhara Fano operates, not Shoa Fano. So, East Amhara Fano fighters have dispersed mostly. They have joined Shoa Fano, they have joined Gondar Fano, and some could be operating somewhere in Vollo, north or south Vollo. Mere Vodajo is the commander of this East Amhara Fano, could not be arrested. Ethiopian forces trying to arrest him. Ethiopian government accused him and the Shigao of assassination of Garba Shtila. But so far, Mere Vodajo has not been arrested. Secondly, there was an interesting article published by the Washington Post yesterday about Fekade Abdisa. Fekade Abdisa is an Oromo militia commander. He claims to be head of Oromo Liberation Army, OLA. So there are two factions of OLA, you can say. One main faction is led by Kumsar Dereba Jalmaro. The other faction is led by Fekade Abdisa. Whenever civilians are killed in Oromia, OLA denies involvement in the civilian killings, and it blames security forces, government forces, or Fekade Abdisa group, that it is involved in killing people of other ethnic groups in the Oromia region. Fekade Abdisa was contacted by the Washington Post, and Washington Post yesterday published an interesting article. Fekade Abdisa shared details of how he joined this armed resistance. He was member of OLF. When he was 18 years old, he joined Oromo Liberation Front. He was trained in Eritrea. Eritrea back then trained opposition Ethiopian fighters. 6-month training he received in Eritrea. He returned to Ethiopia, started armed resistance. He was arrested. Then he was released. When PM Abiy came to power, he released hundreds of Oromo fighters. From Eritrea to OLF fighters returned to Ethiopia. Agreement was signed, but OLA refused to part of the political settlement. OLA, Oromo Liberation Army, continued its armed resistance. OLF signed the agreement, I think, but after that we saw that OLF leadership was arrested, still in prisons. Fekade Abdisa is from Valaga. After his release, he returned to Valaga, and there he formed a militia. He started operating in the form of a gang. Gradually, he built a militia. He says that he is working to protect Oromo interests, and that his forces were never involved in attacks on Amhara civilians. Rather, Amhara armed people and Amhara militias from the Amhara region, they enter Oromia, and his group only fights those armed Amharas who try to kill civilians in Oromia or who enter Oromia from Amhara. This is Fekade Abdisa's position. He denied having killed civilians in Agamsa last year, when dozens of ethnic Amharas were killed. Oromos were killed too in revenge attack back then. He claimed that the people killed in Agamsa were armed fighters, not civilians. And he claims to be the representative of Oromo struggle. So this is the first time that international media has shared something about this militia. We spoke several times in the videos about Fekade Abdisa group last year. So his group is not as big as OLA. Oromo Liberation Army is definitely a bigger group. But he is based in Valaga. OLA is based in Valaga. Amhara militias are based in Valaga as well. Amhara is being armed. So there are local militias there. You can see how many players are there in Valaga. Fekade Abdisa, Gumsa Dereba, Amhara militias, security forces, and there are government-backed forces too. Gachana Sarna, government-backed militia, Oromia police, Ethiopian National Defense Force, etc., etc. That is why there is a mess in Valaga. While talks are underway, talks happened. First round of talks happened between OLA and Ethiopian government. Fekade Abdisa was not part of talks. So let's see if second round of talks starts and some agreement is sealed. We could see Fekade Abdisa come under pressure. So either he'll have to come and be part of the deal, respect the deal, or he will face security operation. He denied being on the payroll of government because OLA claims that Fekade Abdisa has government backing, but he denies involvement. Let's hope that second round of talks starts about peace in Oromia. So far we're seeing intense fighting, resumption of intense fighting between OLA and government forces in Oromia. And OLA in many cases has carried out attacks to release their members from prisons, police stations in Oromia. So we cannot say that it's an attack by government forces to force OLA to make compromises at the table. It seems both sides have relaunched their security operations, and no announcement of second round of talks so far. Lastly, viewers, another diocese in the Oromia region has issued a statement rejecting the appointment of 9 bishops to Oromia and southern Ethiopia in coming days. Around 48 hours ago, Synod of the Church held a meeting, announced that on the 9th of July, 9 bishops will be appointed, 7 to Oromia, 2 to other regions, and that a 7-member committee will make nominations for these appointments. The earlier appointment of 26 bishops by a breakaway faction based in Oromia has not been accepted by the main church so far. That is why we're seeing statements from dioceses in Oromia. We saw 2 statements yesterday. East Shiva Diocese and West Velaga Diocese issued statements rejecting the new appointment of 7 bishops to Oromia. They want the earlier 26 bishops to be their appointment to be respected, approved by the church. Now, organizing committee of Jimma Diocese has issued a statement again rejecting the new appointments. It wants the earlier appointment of the breakaway faction to be approved by the church. Abune Minas was appointed as a bishop to Jimma Diocese, and the organizing committee asked Abune Minas to take charge. Now the diocese are issuing statements asking 26 bishops to return to their diocese and start their work. They tried to start their work months ago, but they could not get public support. Maybe that is why they were forced to rejoin the church. But now once again we're seeing the same problem. Let's see. So far, the decision made by the church 48 hours ago is meeting with opposition in the Oromia region. The 3 archbishops, Abune Serios, Xinomorgos and Evastatius, are calling for calm. They're asking their people to be calm. They say that wait, will share with you details of when there is important development. So basically, they are calling for restraint and calm. They are opposing any protests, etc. So far, it seems. Thank you for watching.